Hi Lewis. Can we just ask you about the move with Max at Turn 4? I know that's being investigated. What was your take on it?
I don't really remember it, to be honest.
When we spoke to you yesterday, you made a comment that I know has been picked up everywhere, and you said change the driver. Can you just tell me, do you genuinely feel that way? Is there a point right now that you just don't have the answers, and so you're finding it really difficult to pick yourself up, or can you help us understand the comment a bit more?
Not particularly. When you have a feeling, you have a feeling. And there's a lot going on in the background that is not great. So, yeah.
Have you lost your love of racing right now?
No, I still love racing.
Is it possible that the 7-time world champion is on the verge of emotional collapse? What led Lewis Hamilton to say live that it is absolutely useless? Today we reveal the truth behind its despair in Ferrari and how the 2025 Hungary GP could change its legacy forever. Lewis Hamilton walked through the paddock with a lost look, as if every step was a reminder of everything that did not work. Around them, journalists, cameras, mechanics, and even their own fans tried to interpret their body language. But it didn't need to wait long. He said it with clarity that froze the atmosphere. I am useless. Absolutely useless. The team has no problem. You have seen that the car is in the pole. So they probably need to change pilot. That moment was much more than an emotional phrase after a bad classification. It was a fracture. A public confession full of despair. A fiberless relief from a world champion that was always a symbol of control, trust, and domain. And now, in 2025, in the most iconic motoring team, he felt out of place. Out of rhythm. Out of itself. In the past, Hamilton had faced gray days, controversial with his team, difficult times. But the Hungaroring had no precedence. Because this time he did not blame the car to the strategy or random. He blamed himself. And that, coming from a heptacampion, is brutal. The most devastating thing was the context. The Ferrari SF25 had proven to be competitive. Charles Leclerc, his partner, had achieved a master pole that same day. Same machine. Same team. Two completely opposite realities. While one touched the sky, the other sank into the mud. That gap was not just technique. It was psychological. It was emotional. It was symbolic. What Hamilton expressed that day was not just frustration for a result. It was the verbalization of an internal storm that has been being taken for months. Since Ferrari arrived, the adaptation has been tortuous. The car does not transmit confidence. The team, although committed, fails to build around the ecosystem of excellence that it once had in Mercedes. And that, for a pilot who built his career about the harmony between man and machine, is devastating. The tone of his voice was not angry. It was of resignation. The type of tone that only appears when someone begins to doubt himself. When an elite athlete, accustomed to challenging the impossible, begins to believe that he has lost his touch. That is no longer up to it. That his time passed. And that radio message was barely out in Q2. It was an emotional dagger. Every time. A phrase so short, so repetitive, but says everything. As if every weekend repeated a pattern without solution. As if they were caught in a nightmare that refuses to finish. Hungaroring, the circuit where Hamilton once shone with legendary performances, now became the stage of his most intimate debacle. And the most alarming thing is that it does not seem to have been an accident. It was the accumulation of a frustration that has been fermented since the season began. Each practice that did not work. Every lap where the car did not respond. Each painful comparison with Leclerc. All of that exploded in Hungary. But what many fail to capture is that these types of statements in the mouth of someone like Lewis are not just words. They are manifestations of a man in crisis. A man who is revaluing his future. That he is facing for the first time in many years, the abyss of personal failure. Non-technical. Not external. Staff. The question is no longer whether Hamilton can adapt to Ferrari. The real question is whether Hamilton can forgive himself for not having yet achieved it. To understand Hamilton's emotional collapse in Hungary, you have to go beyond emotions. Because behind each radio complaint, from each public statement, there is a technical root, a mechanical cause, an invisible but lethal disagree between the pilot and the machine. Ferrari did not reach the Hungary GP with empty hands. On the contrary, he did it with content optimism. The SF25, the car that should mark the rebirth of the Italian team, received a key update, a new rear suspension. It was a significant modification, not just a small adjustment. We talk about a complete redesign at the upper anchor points of the rear fork, low 30 millimeters. The intention? Better the filming height, optimize contact with the ground, and release the true potential of the soil effect, that aerodynamic weapon that defines the performance in the current era of F1. On paper, everything promised. On the track, for Charles Leclerc, it worked. But for Lewis Hamilton, the car never responded. No matter how much experience you have, how many championships you have won, or how much talent you own, if the car does not behave as an extension of your body, you are lost. And that is precisely what Hamilton lived. The improvements introduced demanded a surgical driving style. The SF25 evolved towards a philosophy that prioritized precision in the entry and a half phases of curve. The pilot had to blindly trust the rear stability to release the early brake and throw the car with conviction. That is the specialty of Leclerc. No Hamilton. Lewis tried to adapt. He modified his braking technique. He changed his lateral load approach. He even replied the style that his teammate has perfected for years. But the result was the same, a total disconnection. Telemetry showed the difference crudely. Hamilton wasted time, back after return, right in the sectors where he had always been strong. The medium-speed curves, the most technical, became its greatest obstacle. His natural talent, that allowed him to dominate for more than a decade, simply had no effect on a car that did not speak his language. And it's not about the car is bad. In fact, the SF25 has proven to have a rhythm. We saw it with Leclerc in the pole. But that is precisely the tragedy. The car is competitive, yes, but only under certain conditions with a certain driving style, in an extremely narrow configuration margin. Ferrari also introduced aerodynamic adjustments. New configurations in the front wing profiles. Subwiring reductions through mechanical balance. And all that helped, but only halfway. The reality is that the car has such a reduced operational window that a small mismatch is enough for balance to be completely lost. While Leclerc found confidence with an aggressive tuning on the rear train, Hamilton asked for more stability, more predictability. But the car's response was always the same: unpredictable, nervous, indomitable. The car is conceived to be fast, but not to be universal. And this is where the real problem emerges. Because it's not just about performance. It's about trust. Of sensations. A pilot needs to feel the car supports him. That can push it to the limit without fear of being betrayed. And that is the luxury that Hamilton cannot be allowed today in Ferrari. The most worrying thing is that this is not an isolated situation. It is a pattern. From the pre-season tests, the British has reported difficulties in finding the optimal point of the car. He has tried setup changes. It has explored extreme configurations. He has yielded in his style to adapt to the demands of the car. And nothing has been enough. So the question is inevitable. Did Ferrari really build this car thinking about Hamilton? Or simply inherited a platform that favors Leclerc and let the seven-time champion adapt as it could? In modern Formula One, where synergy between pilot and car is fundamental, this technical gap is quickly transformed into a psychological abyss. Because when the car does not respond to your hands, each lap becomes a battle. Each curve in a dilemma. Each race in an ordeal. And Hungary was no exception. It was the most cruel mirror. A technical, demanding circuit where the pilot makes a difference. Only if the car allows it. There are times in the career of every pilot where statistics, technical data, and performance analysis stop importing. Because what is at stake is not a grid position, not even a championship. It is your identity, your legacy, its history. And for Lewis Hamilton, that crossroads has arrived. After the Hungary 2025 GP, the panorama is not just bleak, it is existential. Hamilton's words were not a simple frustrated pilot complaint. They were a message between the lines. When a world champion points to himself as the problem, he is anticipating something bigger. He is preparing the ground for a drastic decision. There are two paths. The first, the most difficult but also the most honorable: rebuild. Readjust the development philosophy of the SF25 thinking of Hamilton. Listen to him. Return a car that respects your instincts. Bet on him as a project builder, not as a simple executor. But that requires time, resources, and a deep technical alignment that Ferrari has not shown to have in recent years. And the most disturbing thing is that it was not an accident. It was an accumulation of non-successful decisions, of failed attempts, of a car that never understood, and perhaps from an environment that never knew how to adapt to him. Ferrari is still Ferrari, a machine to generate dreams and crush them with the same intensity. A team that can give you glory or show you your limits with a devastating coldness. Hamilton arrived as a redemption symbol. A living myth willing to leave one last indelible mark. But the script has changed, and he has done it in just 3 races. The question now is not if he will win again. It is deeper. Crudest, it is if he will believe in himself again. Because Hungary did not take away points. He removed conviction. He stole that internal faith that distinguishes true champions. And without it, nor the fastest car in the world can save you. And this is where the true tragedy resides, not in defeat but in the void he leaves. In the silence of a pilot who, for the first time, called himself useless. Who looked at the red Ferrari mirror and was not recognized. But if something has demonstrated Lewis Hamilton's career when it seems weaker, it is when he is about to be reborn. His great victories were not born from absolute dominance but from adversity, of noise, of doubts, and that has not yet changed. Maybe Hungary is the bottom, the lowest point, the scene that, when we look back, we will say, everything began. That's where he decided, again, to demonstrate why he is one of the greatest of all time. Or maybe not. And there you are as a spectator. The question is simple. Are we witnessing the renaissance of Hamilton, or its final fall? You decide how you want to remember it, because the story is not over yet.